Hey there, and welcome back to another episode of Foot Traffic. I have Allie Bloyd with me here today. I'm so excited to have you, Allie. We're going to dive into all things local marketing, and I'm excited to get niche down. We haven't really talked a lot of local marketing for Facebook ads, Instagram ads on the show before.
Well, that is definitely something that I am most passionate about talking about. So I'm super excited. Great to connect with you and hopefully share some value with your listeners.
Absolutely. So before we dive into some questions, I would love for you to share your story a little bit, your background. How did you get here and what did it look like before?
Yeah, so honestly, I've been a writer my entire life. I've always loved creating little taglines and slogans for things. And I never really thought about it when I was younger. I actually ended up going to college as a nursing major for my first 2 years.
Oh, wow.
Realized pretty quickly that I would not have been happy in that field and that I was not exercising my creative bones. I wasn't, going to be able to communicate with the people that in a way that I really like to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually had this idea for a dog clothing company. Still think it's like $1 million idea. We'll probably get around to it one day. That actually sparked me to buy a graphic design program to try and do these designs myself. Then I, decided, hey, I love doing this. I ended up going to school for graphic design and branding and, took a ton of marketing classes. And I just felt like I was right at home. So from the beginning, I wanted to use my degree for marketing. And after that, I ended up working for a publishing company that did trade magazines for local businesses.
Okay.
So they were all about sales, marketing, technology, management, training, all of the good stuff. So that was very eye-opening. And what was cool is that first, the owner, I guess, kind of saw that I was an extrovert and asked me if I wanted to start selling the advertising. So I got involved in that and I ended up launching like a completely new industry magazine with them. And it was for the jewelry industry, so local jewelry stores. And in that time, I really started to understand a lot of the challenges that these businesses were having, especially marketing. It was something I was already interested in, but they didn't know what to do. They needed foot traffic. They needed people to actively pay attention to them because this was a high ticket one-time purchase. Hopefully they get this client to buy things over time, but the wedding ring, the engagement ring, like that's their big sale. And they just didn't really know how to make that happen. So it just opened my eyes to a lot of things. I fell in love with really trying to brainstorm and strategize with these local businesses. And then I also got to do a lot of writing for the magazine itself, on these different topics. So that was awesome. While it lasted, ended up not being like the best fit for me long-term. So I got a job as the marketing director for a large home improvement company. And then after that position, got another job as a marketing director for a large home improvement company. That was about 5 years that I was doing that. And it was so awesome to be able to see the big problems in some of the businesses internally that were preventing marketing from actually working as well as it could have. Lack of systems, lack of processes, lack of sales training and follow-up and all of these things that it's like you can have the best marketing in the world, but if you don't have a back-end system to monetize a lead that you get, you waste your money. So that was really like probably the thing that I started to dive into most significantly. And in doing that, started to see how untrackable all of the marketing they used to do really was. TV advertising, radio, print, trade shows, all of these things that local businesses have relied on, they can still work. We definitely were still investing in some of these things, but most businesses don't do them in the way that allows them to track. And if you can't track your marketing, if you can't track where your actual sales are coming from, how can you make educated decisions?
Well, you're just wasting your money. We realized one of our funnels, we have this free trial funnel and it's on our website and they were running Facebook ads to it. And I said, well, how many are coming just from Google and how many are coming from Facebook? And when they said, we don't know, I'm like, stop what we're doing. We have to staff. Like, what if we think it's all coming from Facebook and it's all coming from organic Google searches? You need to know that kind of information. So thank you for saying that because so many people need to hear it.
No, it's so true. And I don't really know if it's because people have spent so much of their lives, like if they were already running a business, doing these things that were hard to track. But even if they move into online marketing, which is a lot easier to track if you set it up the right way.
Yeah.
They still weren't even paying attention to those things. So as a person who was, in charge of all the marketing, of course, I wanted to make sure that my value was very well communicated and that we were able to see, hey, this is not only like what our web traffic looks like. This is how many leads came in. This is how many sales resulted from it. These are the dollars that came to your business from this amount of money. And in that, I really, got involved with organic SEO, social media marketing. This was like around 2015, and the Facebook organic reach pretty much dropped to nothing. So we had actually built like a pretty good sized page at that time. It didn't really matter. And I really was like, okay, well, obviously we already know this works. We've been seeing great results from the organic side. I obviously need to dive into paid ads, figure this out so that we can get those results, consistently. And I would say like, without worrying that someone can just stop it. Granted, they can at any time, which is funny, but that hasn't happened yet, which is awesome.
And I think you've got to ride these waves while they exist and stop freaking out that at some point it can add. Yeah, it absolutely could, but don't miss out on the waves, especially when they're big ones like Facebook.
You're so right. And that's the other thing that I also try and think about is like, what are the timeless marketing strategies and systems that ultimately will translate to other platforms if that should happen? And my philosophy, I guess, on marketing is that education will win. And so any business, and that really probably started as a result from that early position, doing the magazines and seeing how valuable education-based marketing could be. But when I started testing it for these completely different industries, the results continued to be amazing. So really trying to integrate this very educational, valuable content into the front end of the marketing, really working to create unique and exciting offers that focused on converting those people, and then building these trackable systems on the back end that would not only kind of direct people where we wanted them to go next, instead of just leaving it up to them, like what action they were going to take, but as a way to try and follow it through all the way to the actual sales so that we could see those real numbers. And it was just an evolution, over the years. I at times had to push really hard for changes in the organization that were going to help the marketing side. And it can definitely be difficult if a business is established in their ways. A lot of times, like salespeople will be used to selling in a certain way, tracking things in a certain way. And if you ask them to switch, even if it's in their best interest, it can be, very difficult. So,
well, I want to pause for just a second. So I agree with you. A lot of times, I'll have people that have been in business 20 years, 30 years, pre-Facebook, pre-internet, like just a totally different world. And, if you don't evolve, we've seen the businesses that have stayed in their ways and said, we're going to do it this way, that go out of business. So just because you've been in business for 30 years doesn't mean you're here to stay if you're not constantly evolving. So I agree with you. Look at the owner, ask yourself, am I the bottleneck here? Am I standing still? Or maybe you have somebody on your team. Maybe you're ready to evolve, but the person who's been working with you for 15 years doesn't want to, and they're holding you back, and you've really got to have some tough conversations here.
Absolutely. So like I started, it's probably my favorite book. It's called The Ultimate Sales Machine from Chet Holmes.
Yeah.
And after reading that, I was just like, boom, he covers so much of the marketing strategies, and it was written a long, I wouldn't say a long time ago, but pre-heavy Facebook ads and all these things, but these were the same strategies that I was using. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. But he really talked about how to implement change in an organization that is kind of resistant to it. And it is definitely a big part of the process. Like if you are willing to grow as the owner, you do have to kind of enforce this. Like one of my favorite phrases from the book is people respect what you inspect. And if you want them to do things a certain way, you simply have to make it part of your process to check in on it. And that really was just, I guess, kind of like, it really allowed me to tie everything together. I think a lot of marketers do see this one side of the process. They see the front end ad lead gen side, but they don't see the back end, like what's happening in a business to drive those sales and some of the problems that need some adjusting or support. And through that, it's really kind of led me to, what we do today, and being very focused on the back end just as much as the front end, because they both have to be strong in order
Right.
for a local business to see the results that they want to see.
Right.
So yeah,
Well,
love talking about the follow-up for sure.
yeah, and as I'm kind of working through our foot traffic formula, we're obviously, as I'm recording this is a different time, but we're in the middle of this launch, and I keep saying to people, don't take action yet. You're missing the next step, right? If you all of a sudden go and run an ad, or you all of a sudden go and post this on social media, or go hire the intern, and you haven't heard all the other steps, you're just hurting yourself, right? And I think
You're right.
we want it now. We want to grow. So we want to just move quickly, and you've just got to slow down to really get the right pieces in place, like you're saying, with that back end, or you're wasting your time and your money. So this is really, really crucial. So thank you so much. This has all been so good so far. And what I want people to hear is, it wasn't like people hear you and they start to go like, well, she's an ad expert, so she gets it. She's techie. She's this. But before your story, you were just a regular person going to school, and you happen to start diving into these things, learning for yourself, or for your if you were working for somebody, just mastering that skill a little bit. Anybody listening could be taking your journey and learning more about ads, learning more about any of this stuff. Now, if this isn't your thing, I always tell people, I don't run my own Facebook ads, but I know enough to know if there's weird things going on, right? Or when they tell me the cost per lead or the conversion rates, I can question it. I might not know how to go in there and do all the things, but I'm smart enough to figure out something's not going right. So I want you to keep listening. Even if you're not somebody who's going to do it, you need to be involved enough to know if something is not working out in your favor here.
Oh, you're totally right. And just a little quick story for the non-techie people. Before I started, like out of the blue, working on this little graphic design program, I considered myself computer illiterate. Like when I transitioned into this new degree, there was a computer basics class. Everyone in the classroom was grumbling like, why do we have to be in here? Why do we have to take this? I was like, I'm so excited. I don't know any of this. And I was very, very like unfamiliar with all of this stuff. I grew up in school with computers, but it was not a heavy part of, going to school. And so it was definitely something I learned. My mom actually works for me, and she does a lot of this stuff now. Never had any experience before. So it all depends on where your passion lies, like what you're interested in. If you really want to learn it, you absolutely can. Just like you said, if it's not something that you want to do for yourself, know what should be happening. So if you do outsource it, they're not taking advantage of you or failing where you think they're succeeding, because I've seen that happen so many times.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this poor company, they've been shelling out so much money, and they don't even know if they're getting leads,
Well, right. If you ask them questions, you do start doing some digging, you can tell they don't know. Or they'll come to me and they'll say, we're getting $8 a lead. And they're super excited because the company was super excited. And I'm going, that's too high. We need to get that lower, right? We need to focus on. So I really like that we're just educating people right now on getting involved in this conversation. So this is a great place to start. So I know you're in the middle of a challenge week as well, and I've been following along, and you're really just sharing this marketing mastery for local businesses. So can we dive into some of the questions or things that you've been doing? Okay. So, and first of all, can I just say, I looked at your homework and assignments every day, and I'm like, this girl is giving away so much good stuff. So you guys, you definitely need to be following her, because you're giving real things where you better go and do this, or go Google or YouTube or figure this out. It has to be done.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Let's just get started let's kind of start through a little bit of your day one of like, where would you get started and what would this look like? You talked a lot about the right offer and like really having the right, like you said, back end. So what should we be thinking about? Should this be higher price, lower price, our main offer? Like, where should we go when we're first getting started for our first Facebook ad?
So you're definitely right. The outside of understanding the numbers that already exist in your business and what you can actually afford to spend on some of these things, like your acquisition, your cost per lead, that's so important for you. But having the offer is really what all of your marketing is going to be based on. And it's not that you only ever have to have one offer, but you do need to be focused. It's something where most local businesses don't have enough ad spend budget to effectively market a lot of things at the same time. You don't want to confuse your audience. Also, if you don't really understand the strategy, you will be marketing the wrong things to the wrong people.
Yeah.
And you definitely don't want to see that happen. So I really like to help people understand, what is this offer going to look like for you? So 3 different types of businesses, essentially, that I kind of look at when helping somebody craft an offer. Number 1, retail. They're going to have definitely a different type of offer. Bundles work well, some time-based incentives. I love doing local events for retailers. Anything that is going to encourage people to buy more, definitely get them to come in your location and to really show this perceived value, because we live in this online one-click shopping world. Local retailers are still awesome, but you have to give people a reason to come see you, or they simply will not do it.
Right.
So that type of business, very specific style of offers that you need to get. But I also encourage them to focus on some type of lead generation offer.
Yeah.
Because just because you're a retailer and you're not like setting an appointment with someone, it doesn't mean that lead gen is not worth your time. You definitely need to build subscribers, like a lot of ways to do that with your campaigns, but you've got to understand their purpose. One example, I guess, would be like a giveaway. I love giveaways, but people often think that I'll run this giveaway campaign and then all these people that sign up are going to buy from me.
Yeah.
That's just not how it's going to work. You have to get them in your ecosystem, establish the relationship. Then you're going to show them what they should be buying for you or from you.
Yeah.
Then there's going to be more of like a recurring based style business, where it could be something that you should be purchasing a couple times a year or very consistently. And then you've got more of these businesses that are kind of like that jewelry store. Like it's a very sporadic purchase. Sometimes it's just a one-time thing, or you got to catch them at the right time. For that type of business, it's so important to integrate that content in there, because that's one of the only things on social media that gives you a true understanding of what somebody is interested in at that point in their life. Targeting doesn't always show us intent. It doesn't show us this need, because needs can come on us unexpectedly, and we're not necessarily going to like all these different pages around it on social media. So getting someone to really understand what structure of offer is going to work best for your style of business. Then we also want to make sure that it focuses on driving their revenue goals. So if you're a business that really has great customer retention, you just need more customers coming through the door, then a more aggressive front-end offer. So, a variety of ways to achieve it, but getting them in is the most important thing, because you can keep them, and you also know that you're going to make that money in lifetime value. So understanding where the bulk of your money is made will allow you to make a really educated decision in that offer. Because if if this is a one-time purchase, you don't want to heavily discount what you're doing. You're not going to, you can't afford to. But if this is like the first interaction, this first step, you can afford to discount, give away one for free, do something very special for that first time, because especially if you've got that back end in place, you are going to move that person through. They're going to stay with you, and you'll definitely make a great return.
Now, a lot of times I will see people trying to fill or sell the things that are hard to sell, right? They're like, oh, I'm only selling 3 of these, or we can't sell them. So let's do the funnel to sell those things. And I'm always like, you guys, funnels scale what's working well. It doesn't really help the things that nobody already wants, right? So I would go with the thing that's selling, that is your best seller, that people typically find you at this stage. Like, pick the thing that is working and sell more of that thing. Don't try to sell the thing that you're still already struggling with selling. It's crazy.
That's such a great point.
People do. That's what they think. Yeah.
I see that in retail a lot, for sure.
Yeah.
But those are some of the other considerations. What is the highest demand? So if you have a product or service, what is the group that, there's just more of them?
Yeah.
You're obviously going to have a better opportunity. Or you could look at your highest profit product or service. You will expect that you're going to get fewer leads or fewer sales, because there should be a smaller group of people.
Yeah.
But if you really put your effort into it, you definitely can really build a good offer that way. So I have I have a new client, and so they're kind of something I'm talking about in the challenge, and it's an IT business. So they're like 15 million a year. They've like barely done any marketing ever. So great word of mouth. Like they've
Yeah.
done a great job, but they've never had to actively promote things. And so in trying to really like hammer down the details of our offer,
Yeah.
I kind of mentioned these things. So they do phone systems, like business phone systems. Obviously that is going to apply to virtually any business. You can really work with anyone on that.
Yeah.
Then they've got, we have an offer for like a contract review. They basically can like text or email their contract. They'll like review it, send you a video, things like that, which that can be great, but that only applies to people who are currently working with IT providers. So great market for them, smaller audience. And then someone brought up the idea of, well, we have these wide format printers that work well for blueprints. So I really want to sell these to builders, And the thing is that's awesome, but let's go talk about that in a networking group or the building industry association. That is such a specific market. Doesn't mean the offer should be tossed out.
Right.
It just means that why would you build your entire system around something with such a small audience? So really having that understanding, I mean, it truthfully changes everything that you're going to do moving forward. Your back end pricing is also something to look at. So I use the example in the challenge of one of my, it's like a laundry company.
Okay.
They pick up your laundry, they'll do it, they deliver in 24 hours. I'm like, that's awesome. I really want somebody to do that. But the best part about it is that it's something people will always need. However, they were expecting people to schedule, their pickups every time individually. So I'm like, why don't we get them on a recurring plan? They just pay you, they save time. They can set like an automatic pickup date. So they're not having to worry about it, but they're obviously going to spend more money with you because you get them on a system that's logical. Like we do laundry every week. Let's set you up every week. But leaving it up to them, they might do twice a month. Maybe they're like, I only remembered to do it once this month. So it's a value to the customer, but it's a huge way to change your lifetime value. And all you're doing, like they literally took their average pricing for these different groups. It's the same thing. Like their pricing didn't change. It was the structure of how they were, presenting it to the customer. And that's just been amazing.
Yeah. This kind of reminds me too. I always tell my front desk at our dance studios, these parents, especially like a dad that walks in, no offense, but sometimes the dads are like, I don't know anything. Like, could you just tell me what you want me to do? Because I don't even know what to say to you, right?
Yeah,
absolutely. So I always say to my desk, like, you educate them. You tell them what the norm is or what you suggest, and then you let them choose. But to let them walk up to the desk and just start talking like they know what they're doing, no way. And that's what we're doing in these Facebook ads. We're talking to them, making the suggestions, putting out the offer. You need to be the person suggesting, not them, when they just don't know yet.
They're definitely not. And sometimes, people just don't have any offer at all. They're literally like, call us today. Like, that's it. Call you today for what? Why?
Right.
People are so busy. You've got to give them a reason.
So let's talk about when you are in these Facebook ads, Instagram ads, and I'm sure there's many ways you can do this, but do you do a lot of this to a free offer? Are you doing it right away to a low cost offer? Do you have a few of these running at the same time to split tests? Like, I'm just curious what you typically tell people to do.
So usually when we work with an agency client, we definitely want to establish at least 2 entry point offers that we want to test. Sometimes I'll have a really good feeling about one of them, and maybe not so much the other, or maybe I genuinely just want the audience to tell us what they like best. And that's something that we definitely want to test on the front end. So usually with a lot of the clients that I work with or the students in my program, the lead generation aspect is the biggest thing. I do have some people that they're trying to get a purchase online before they ever, contact someone, but it's not the typical. So essentially what we want to do is give them a reason to sign up and book a call or book an appointment. Those are typically the things that are going to apply to everyone, even if you don't necessarily think it will. If you have to speak with someone before they're going to buy, just get them to schedule that thing. So we'll often say like, activate your offer by scheduling this, 15-minute call. Whereas in the past, somebody may have just let a lead come in, done nothing. If the follow-up wasn't quick, that person would have never been contacted or they never would have connected. And by doing that, you're really able to increase those rates
Yeah.
Most of the time it's not a free offer. Sometimes it is. It really depends on the industry, and it kind of depends on, which product and service they really want to focus on. I would say that, like in the remodeling industry, sometimes it's like a free design. That is a great entry point offer, but it establishes a lot of credibility and everything that you need to move the process forward. So it's like, if you're going to do a free offer, you definitely can, but it has to feed into the process.
Yeah.
So if it's like, hey, we're offering, a free dance baton at the studio, that's awesome. But you're going to have so many people that come in and grab it and leave. They don't do anything.
100%. I know. We used to think like, oh, should we do a free tutu? And like, no, that's not going to work. So I happened to be at my studio yesterday for our monthly meeting, and I have my numbers. So 59 leads came from this one Facebook ad, but only 27 of them actually like got on the phone with us. So we are going to put, I'm told you, we talked like a week ago, and I'm going to do like the activate your offer to see if that helps. To see, 59, and then it's like killer 45%. Yeah. So I'm excited to see it.
You really will be. And that's the thing, is sometimes it's like these small additions or tweaks, like within a system that's already functioning well, that can really, drive more significant results. But that is kind of the core of what has to happen with almost every local business. You've either got to get somebody on the phone, get them to an appointment. Sometimes if you're a retailer, you need them to come in. That's where I do like the events, because they have to register. If you're just a retailer selling something other than some type of coupon, which is very hard to, really get them to be excited about it, you want to get their contact info. You want to be able to connect with them live. People buy from people. They buy from people they like and trust. And, being able to really connect with them one-on-one is the best way to do that. So even if you're like not sure if that's a good fit for your offer, just think about it a little bit. And unless the transaction happens 100% online, it is going to be able to be utilized somewhere.
Well, and what, for me, I want to make sure everybody hears this too, is, so we had 18 new customers from this funnel. And what can happen is you're like, oh, wow, 18 new leads. Like, that's amazing. But when you look at the numbers of who you could have had or how many you could have had, be careful that you're not letting these numbers get you excited. Maybe, it's better than last year what you did, but you could still be getting double that, right? So you have to be tracking your numbers. And like Allie has already said, if you aren't tracking, all this data that I have to know where we're messing up and where we're doing well, and do I need to add a welcome gift or this, I know where I'm struggling and where I'm not. You need to know those numbers.
Yeah. It's, knowledge is power, and it really is. You can't do anything if you don't know where the breakdown is happening. And also, like you said, constantly stay ambitious, because just because the industry average is this or that, that doesn't mean that you couldn't be doing 4 times better than the industry average and really growing your business. And if you're never testing on an ongoing basis, you're going to miss out on a lot of those. Some of your tests will produce no changes, and that's fine. Some of them will produce a negative change, and you're like, definitely won't do that ever again. And then the others will really be eye-opening, and you'll say, I'm going to implement this in every single thing I do moving forward, which doesn't just affect that one campaign. It really affects your overall marketing process, which is super powerful.
Right. And I think too, you've got to let your ego go a little bit. Like, if you think, oh, I have this killer video and we have to run this video, and then you're split testing or somebody notices that the graphics just doing better. Sometimes I see my clients, but I spent money on that. Like, that cost me $3,000. We have to keep it running. I'm like, okay, but you realize you're wasting money because the graphic that was for free, is just outperforming. So really being conscious of that.
So true. And that's another thing, like, videos, so powerful, but people, please don't spend all this money on your videos. You can test them at bare minimum, very low cost. You really need to focus more on the topic and the content than you do the production and the graphics in the video, and like the words flying on the bottom of the screen. People will watch very organic feeling videos. That's what they see on social media. So if that were the case with somebody and they made this video in 5 minutes, they'd be so much more willing to let it go than if they had invested a lot up front. So kind of the same way that I tell people about lead magnets, like, do not create a 30-page ebook right now. Like, you don't even know if the topic is what your audience really wants.
Yeah.
Create a checklist, a one-page checklist. People actually use those a lot more anyway. Or create a list, top 10, things to buy this year, whatever it is. Just keep it simple until you see the patterns of the content, topics, the formats, and really like who's engaging in terms of your avatars. Like, you may have an avatar that you don't consider your most powerful, but if they're the people that are consistently subscribing to you, buying from you, those are the people that are showing, hey, I'm a wide open opportunity. So you really want to cater more to them. So just don't invest too much money or time in things that you don't know are going to work yet. Like, really look at proven systems and processes and try and model some of those things, and truthfully let the data guide you. Just like you said, let your ego go. Just because you love it doesn't mean the audience loves it. All we care about is what they want, at the end of the day.
Yeah, I agree with you. When you are just doing little tests, that's when you can start to put more money into it, when you see what's actually working, or you create this amazing 15-second video and you want to see if you can up the production value. But know that sometimes it might be doing well because it does look more organic and people might be catching their eye more. So we're in a world of experimenting, testing, throwing at the money at the wall and just kind of seeing what's sticking. Now, I forgot to ask you this. You had mentioned how sometimes people come to you and they're not willing to spend a good enough, like large enough amount to really test. What is like a bare minimum? If you're a local brick and mortar, you should absolutely be spending this amount of money per month.
I typically suggest that people give it at least $2,000 a month. You can start a little bit lower, and honestly, like it can depend on what you're selling, but if you're selling a lower ticket thing, you need more leads anyway. If you're selling higher ticket, you also have to understand that there's probably fewer of those people out there, but one purchase covers everything. So really they both work in the same way. Again, for testing purposes, that's a big reason of why I'm like, at least start there. If you start to see the data and you feel like you can achieve your goals with fewer dollars, like if you're just trying to maintain X number of leads and the cost allows you to predictably spend what you want to get that, go for it. But you will do yourself a disservice if you don't really anticipate that a percentage of your budget is going to be for testing, and some of those tests are going to fail. So you won't get that money back right away. But what you will get is the knowledge of what doesn't work. You won't do that again. You will grow what is working, and you're definitely going to see a better return than if you stretch out the testing process so far that you don't know what's working until 6 months down the road. Like, could have made a lot of money in that 6 months if you had known.
And your knowledge becomes dated. So the longer you take to test, who knows what's even still relevant or not. So I do think you have to move quickly on this. But the biggest thing is when you test small and you start and you're positive those leads are coming from that funnel, it's not that scary to scale. Like if somebody heard 2,000, but if you know for sure that it's from that, it's okay, versus you're just putting it everywhere, right? Like people say, I want my logo everywhere. And then they don't really care. They just want it very visible, but then they don't know if the football stadium for $3,000 is actually bringing them any money, right? This is
so true. And it's funny because honestly, a call I had about an hour ago, we talked about this exact thing. And the biggest issue is like the anxiety that people feel about investing in certain forms of marketing or marketing in general. But there's no anxiety when you know what works. You have this formula. I invest X amount of dollars. I can anticipate this much more to come out of that. And those that do simply want to maintain, definitely spend whatever you want to spend. But then you have a formula for growth. Like you can predictably hire team members to help you. You can hire salespeople. You can hire people that can replace you because you know that you have the leads or the jobs to keep them busy. Whereas, not investing, you will stay small. Like you do have to take these calculated risks, but I think at this point it's been so proven that this works for local businesses when done the right way. All you need to be doing is making sure you're implementing the right strategy. You understand what's going to work for your business. You're keeping a close eye on it, whether you're the one doing it or not, and you will see what's going on. And those numbers will tell you, hey, this is getting like 4 times better return than anything else we're doing. Let's take that money and we'll put it in over here.
Yeah.
And you're ultimately spending the same as what you were, but you've
Completely.
already grown, what you're doing. So it really is more about mindset a lot of times, and people just knowing that systems work. If you're really willing to do your due diligence, make sure
Yeah.
you know that this is something that will work for me. That's the $2,000 is just going to be a starting point. And I love the people that see it that way. They don't say, this is our 2,000 a month, we're just going to spend 2,000 every month. That laundry company, for example, like, they're like, we're so excited. Like, how much more should we spend? We see the results. We want to go all in with this because why not? It's bringing us all the new clients we want. We know that money is made month after month after month after month. So, it really is about mindset and confidence in what you're doing.
Yeah.
And if you can have those two things, then you can do really, really well.
Well, and I think the mindset, some of us struggle with it because back in the day, people paid Yellow Pages, right? And they might have paid $700 a month to be in the Yellow Pages. And then all of a sudden Yellow Pages died out, and then it was free social media. And I think if we've started our business in the free social media era, to you, it's very normal to not have to pay for marketing, right? Whereas I come from a world of pre-Facebook. So we always paid. I mean, we were paying left and right for all these things. And I think it's kind of skewed the way that people see investing in marketing. A lot of people believe they don't have to pay for Facebook. They should be able to post for free.
Yeah.
That is not how this world works. And you might have experienced it for a very short, brief time, a few years, where Facebook actually showed your posts, but those days are over.
Yep.
So if you want to continue using social media, you have got to start paying.
It's the only way to really control who sees the content as well. Like, even the people who, out of 36,000 Facebook fans, only 1,000 see it. But guess what? That could be the owner, the wife of the owner, the sister of the owner, the people who just like, you don't know if they're actually the people you want to sell to.
Right.
And it's kind of the way I see Instagram in a lot of ways. Like, I end up talking to a lot of people who think that building this big, they're local businesses. They think that building a big organic Instagram following is the way to go, which I'm never going to tell somebody, don't worry about that at all. But in truth, I have seen it very difficult for a local business to get a lot of local followers. Like, they'll get followers, but they're from all over, and that person can't be your client. So why are you looking at the vanity metrics? Like, look at the metrics that will actually help you succeed.
Yeah, we let that go a long time ago because we can't compete with an online business who can make, a million, let's just say 100,000. And for us, like 2,000 is great. I mean, it's a whole different ballgame. So I don't even look at those vanity numbers. We aren't even trying to actively like make sure that those numbers are growing. We're more invested in how much we spend on Facebook ads and how many customers we get from it.
Exactly. When you simply like look at return on investment, you will see things differently. Stop posting on Instagram every day, local businesses, and thinking you're doing so great at marketing. Like, you're digging yourself into a hole. You're getting farther behind, thinking that this is what will do something for you. But, your time would be much better spent in a place where you could control where your ads go and really clearly see those results.
Yeah, so good. I could talk to you all day. This was so good. Where can they go to find out more about you if they wanted to hire your agency or just anything local Facebook ads?
Yeah, so alliebloydmedia.com is my website. You can find some good info over there. I am very active on Facebook. I am on Instagram. I don't post every day. I'm on YouTube, LinkedIn, those are kind of the places I hang out, but I would love to connect with you on social. And definitely, if you need help with your local business, would love to speak with you and really just get you a game plan, get you on the right track, even if you want to handle it in-house. So I really appreciate you having me on the show. It's been awesome.
So fun. Thank you so much, Allie. I am sure we're going to have you back. So thank you for being here. I appreciate it so much.
Awesome.